The term of a president or a governor is 4 years. 4 years. The constitution was direct. He said the president, after spending 4 years in office, vacates his office. You have one-term presidency because no president will now be able to appoint any INEC chairman that will supervise his own election. If you do 8 years of 2 terms, you don't have 2 years for yourself as a president because you will use it politicking. So eventually, you will spend state resources, you will spend state time, you will...
That was Kenneth Okonkwo trying to explain a lot of things about the Constitution. Yes, recently P2B came out and told us that he just wants one tenure. Just one tenure is okay for him to, to change everything he wants to change. And Anambra State governor came out and said what he said. We all know what he said. And now Kenneth Okonkwo wants to expatiate on that. Yes, let's listen to him and know exactly what he has to say on this issue. Thank you as we listen together.
The controversy deepened after Anambra State Governor Professor Chukwuma Soludo mocked the pledge during a political rally, suggesting that politicians making such promises require psychiatric evaluation. But in a detailed response on social media, Obi defended his stance by citing historical examples of transformative leaders like Abraham Lincoln, John F. Kennedy, Nelson Mandela, who achieved lasting legacies despite brief tenures. Political watchers have been divided into 2 camps following Peter Obi's promise to be a one-term president if elected. What is the feasibility of the idea given the existential challenges facing Nigeria, and why the vow is being greeted with skepticism? Lawyer Kenneth Okonkwo joins us for a conversation. I want to say thank you very much for joining us today. And let's get it started. This one-term thing, why are people taking it with a pinch of salt? Because if the politicians themselves are knocking this, are they almost indicting themselves by saying that don't ever believe what we tell you on our campaign trail because we do not mean what we say, if they are saying that this is political theatrics to probably just get themselves into power? Are they all indicting themselves, talking about all the politicians and the political parties knocking this down?
Well, thank you for inviting me, and thank you, viewers, for joining us. First and foremost, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria made it clear. In Section 135, subsection 2, and Section 180, subsection 2 of the Constitution is very clear. The term of a president or a governor is 4 years. 4 years. The constitution was direct. He said the president, after spending 4 years in office, vacates his office. At times, politicians behave as if they don't have any job. So when somebody says he's going to spend only 4 years, he simply stated a constitutional provision. But here is just a little addition. The Constitution says you are no longer qualified to contest if you have contested for that position twice in previous elections. And this is by Section 137, subsection 1B, and Section 187, subsection 1B. So the issue here is this. If you say you want to contest one term, that is your own idea. That is your own opinion. You are entitled to it. In Nigeria and in some African countries, where elections are deemed not to be free and fair, that's where you have all these unnecessary arguments. Why did I say that? Even abroad, you're not sure, even when you're an incumbent, whether if you contest, whether you will win. That is where you will know that your term of office is not 8 years, it's not 2 terms, it's 1 term. So it ought not to even be a point of argument. Because even if you are an incumbent, if you recontest, you can fail. The only thing the Constitution says is that if you fail 100 times, if you have not been elected twice, you are still qualified to be governor or president. So for me, I do not see any issue whatsoever, except like you said, distrust of themselves, and two, because of the belief that there is no free and fair election. If there is free and fair election, then the issue of 2-term, 8 years would not arise. But here is another issue. Because of our rotational arrangement, which has this proposition of 8 years for South, 8 years for North, politicians now do not want to place themselves in a disadvantaged position, because 4 years having been taken by a Southern politician, if you are a fresh politician and you want to do another 8 years, you will know that you are dead on arrival. So it's a political strategy on its own for you to accede that you will do 4 years. It is not because the politician did not want to do 8 years, no. But he knows that he has only 4 years left from the Southern, remaining term. But here is another issue. By agreeing you will do 1 year, you do 4 years, you have also agreed that if there is any other Northerner that say he will do also 4 years, then both of you are at the same level of equity, because there would be no injustice either section. So there's nothing wrong in a party, for instance, especially an opposition party that doesn't have an incumbent, saying in order that Nigerians will be free to trust them, that they are going to have a transitional government whereby whoever is going to contest would have to agree to do 1 term and do not exercise his constitutional rights to recontest. A party can do that, so that whether they present a candidate from the North or from the South, the Nigerians from either section will not feel that they have been betrayed or an injustice meted out to them. For instance, if a Northerner wins in another political party and commits to do 4 years, then what it means is that the South and the North has shared for 4 years like they did during the Yaradua Goodluck Jonathan period, and there will be no injustice. So there is nothing, absolutely nothing that ought to raise concerns or arguments. But like you said, a man who kills by the sword does not like people to wave sword at his back. So politicians have made themselves very untrustworthy. So they go the extra mile to prove themselves when they make any proposition.
All right, Mr. Okonkwo, that's noted. A lot of people might have focused on the what in terms of what was said, but you've drawn some focus to the why this move might have been made in terms of the rotational arrangement and being a political strategy. But let's look more, examine at the why a bit closer. Do you think there are any personal reasons that might not be overt for this declaration being made by the aspiring president of Nigeria?
No. It's purely a political strategy. There is nothing hidden about it, because every politician would want to complete his 2 terms if he has the opportunity. But of course, if this were 2023, the same politician and presidential candidate or aspirant would not make the same promise. Like I said, as it stands today, a Southerner has taken 4 years. So it will be political suicide for you to come and say you want to do 8 years. Nobody will vote for you, not even from South or from the North. So it is purely a political strategy, nothing else. Anybody telling you it's because he wants to be like Mandela or want to be like this, no, that's not true. But again, the person may want to tell you that just for you to believe he will do 4 years. He may want to tell you that he can still achieve his basic objectives within 4 years, just to encourage you to know that he is serious in not trying to exercise his constitutional right to recontest election. So there is nothing beyond political strategy. That's what it is.
All right, some political scientists will usually say that we missed a major turning point in our nascent democracy, whereby we did not see through that particular law or that particular policy that would have become law, whereby it would have been 1 year, 6 years. Do you think Nigeria would have been better off if we had decided to go down that road than trying to do 2 terms or maybe of 8 years?
Now, from day one, from 1999, I have been in support of one-term presidency, one-term executive tenure. And the reason is very clear. The issue of 2 terms have introduced a whole lot of politicization of Nigeria, which leads to division and balkanization, which leads to the elites manipulating the followership with religious and ethnic bigotry that is non-existent amongst them. The reason is this. All this issue of whether the president should appoint the INEC chairman will disappear on its own when you have one-term presidency, because no president will now be able to appoint any INEC chairman that will supervise his own election. If you do 8 years of 2 terms, you don't have 2 years for yourself as a president because you will use it politicking. So eventually, you will spend state resources, you will spend state time, you will spend the bureaucracy of state for politics. One-term presidency will first and foremost secure the issue of rotation between North and South. And you can now make it constitutional and it will not be breached because you just have 1 term. And when it is 1 term of 6 years, you have nothing to lose if it is 2 terms of 8 years. Because you, from the one when you settle in, it is for legacy. Haven't you noticed that every president in power is always reluctant to sign electoral reforms in his first term in office? The reason is because he wants to use the jaundiced Electoral Act to rig his own election before, when he wins the second time, when he does not have any other term to contest for, he will not be willing to sign Electoral Act or even constitutional amendment that would take us forward. So, but if it is 1 term, from the one, the president that is coming in is willing and bold enough to sign every legacy legal reforms that would have made us to be the first to be in the first superpower nation by now. Honestly, we don't have any need for 2 terms of 8 years. 1 term of 6 years would have been ideal. I supported it from 1999. I've been writing an article about it. It's quite unfortunate because since we don't have free and fair election, that is another way to push us closer to free and fair election. Because no president will be willing to have his legacy soiled internationally and nationally, that he is an election rigger. So if he's not going to be the one supervising his own election, our election will get cleaner and cleaner until we get to the best time. Our economy will get stronger and stronger because he comes in immediately and he will not talk about using the resources for politics, but using it for development.
Kenneth is actually right, because any governor or president that is being elected immediately, the next thing is the agenda is, how do I win my next tenure? How do I win the next tenure? You see the person, instead of focusing on what the person is being elected, the only thing they will do is to try to bribe people, bribe all political parties to be in their own party in order to help them to rig the next election. This doesn't work that way. If we continue like this, that means all of us are doing in this country. I think Kenneth is right. 1 tenure is just, even 6 years is much. That 4 years, if you actually want to do anything to bring development to your people, 4 years is more than enough to do that. 6 years to me is much. Anyway, let me know what you think. Let's finish up the clip on what Kenneth is saying on this issue.
Because he cannot use it for his own election. So it is all good, 1 term, politically, socially, economically, and otherwise. And everybody should please work hard so that we can have it.
Indeed, Mr. Okonkwo, you've said that you've been an advocate of this 1 term since 1999, giving us the reasons why, from effective governance to strengthening our democracy. But do you think, with how things look right now, if you look at all the factors in play right now, how soon do you think we'll get to a point in Nigeria where a 1-term presidency will go from ideal to reality? Will go from ideal to reality?
It can happen tomorrow. This president changed the national anthem within a week. The political will is there, but they don't want to use it for what will be good for Nigeria, for selfish reasons. Just because this president may want to do 8 years. What if God, in his own infinite mercy, terminates you and you just do only 4 years? Which one would have been better for you? So I agree with you. The time is now. Today is the best time for the constitution to be amended for that one-term presidency. And Nigeria should be willing to make any sacrifice to accommodate that one-term presidency. So it is purely, a political mess that the National Assembly, every session, they will say constitutional amendments. They will go to all the geopolitical zones. They will sow Ashobi in some of the zones, singing, hey, on mandate, on your not your mandate. And at the end of the day, you achieve nothing. We should be serious in this country. The time is now. The opposition should insist. The ruling party should insist. Nigerians should insist so that we can move forward in this country. It is lack of interest, lack of intention, lack of desire to do it. Because this president is completely in charge of the National Assembly. He's completely in charge of majority of the states. Anything he wants done can be done. But he is very, very, very bold, very, very audacious in taking wrong decisions. But the right ones, unfortunately, sorry.
All right.
The incompetence and corruption of this government is what is hindering them.
I want to say many thanks to you, Barrister Kenneth.
People say that Atiku perhaps would be president. Would you like to see him become vice president? Does he still have your support?
Let's go back to dream count.
Oh my word.
But I think what I will say about your question, and I don't, part of the reason I don't like to speak speculatively about things I'm not sure of, so we don't know who's a candidate. But I will say that my support for Peter Obi, right, is something that I do not hesitate to proclaim or talk about, because I can tell you what it is rooted in. My support for Peter Obi is rooted in my love for this country. It's rooted in my belief that with the right leader, we can be better than we are. We can create a country where people feel included, a country that is not corrupt and does not tolerate corruption. Again, if you have the leader who's setting the tone, it makes all the difference. And I think that he's also a person who, he doesn't need to be president. He wants to be because he cares about Nigeria, but he doesn't need to be. And that is a very important distinction. There are people who are desperate to become president, not because they have any good intentions for the country, but because of their own personal egos. And I think that distinction is so important, because you choose the right leader and you realize it's not about him. For Peter Obi, it's never been about him. Even as a person, his personality, I think, is very telling. He's one of the simplest men I have ever known, and I've known him for many years. And he is genuine and consistent. The person I knew 15 years ago is still the same person in terms of his values. And he's very curious. He wants to learn. And I think that's such a good quality to have in a leader. And also, there's a wonderful humility. We lack that in this country. There's a sense, I think, in Peter Obi that he's accountable to the people. He doesn't think that somehow he will lord it over people. Peter Obi is not a person who expects you to thank him for doing his job as a leader, because to him, it's his job. And so these are the reasons that I support him, and that I will continue to support him in whatever way I can. But I don't want to talk in specifics about how will I feel if he's not the presidential candidate. I don't want to think about that yet, because we don't know. We don't know what will